Awesome. Well, I'm super excited to be here. My name is Nicole A. I am a recent breast cancer survivor. I like to say survivor, even though I'm still going through treatments, because you have to like speak these things into existence. And my story was kind of interesting because I had to rely heavily on staying positive and speaking things into existence to help me kind of cope and get through it. So my story starts actually 2021. I had just started a new business and I was working full time. So as many women can relate, we have like all these balls in the air. We're just constantly juggling like everything and everybody else. And I honestly wasn't really paying attention to my body. I was just kind of in this flow of just life, right? And I felt a lump probably in the fall or fall going into the winter of 2021. And I really didn't think anything of it. Like I felt a lump and I was like, has this always been here? You know, like it was like you start thinking things through, like, is this weird? Is this normal? And it never crossed my mind that it could be anything else than, just something that just popped up and it'll go away, right? And so it wasn't until it started to hurt that I told my mom, just in passing. Me and my mom were like best friends. So I was just like, yeah, I think I sprained my boob. And she was like, I don't think that's a thing, Nicole. She was like, when's the last time you went to the doctor? And I was like, oh, I have my annual coming up. I'll just bring it up then. And she kept pressing me about it and asking me, did you schedule it? Did you schedule it? So finally I was like, oh my gosh, okay, mom, like I'm 31 for the most part, I'm relatively healthy. And I just literally went to the doctor for my annual. So I'm really not thinking anything of it. I go to the doctor, we do our screenings, and she also, based on my age, based on family history, like I don't have any family history of breast cancer directly. And so we, all of those precursor things outside of an actual lump, we really didn't expect it to be anything. So when I got the call December 4th, my doctor called me and I could tell in her voice, like I could hear her voice. She sounded very like just solemn and very surprised. And she was just, it was right before Christmas and she was about to go on her break. And she's like, I'm so sorry I have to call you with this news. But she confirmed that, we did the biopsy and that mass that they saw was cancerous. And I think that's like when life just flips upside down because you're like, wait, what? Cancer? How? Where? What are you like? All these thoughts are flying through your brain. I think I literally wrote down 3 words. It was like lymph nodes, cancer, nurse to call you. Like that's literally all I could write down when she called me. And it took me a while to kind of process it because my association with cancer up until that point had really just been negative. My grandmother had been diagnosed with colon cancer when I was a kid, and she fought that, beat it, and then later in life had pancreatic cancer, and she passed away from that. And so my association with cancer was always just like associated with my grandmother, and ultimately didn't end in life, it ended in death. And so for me, I was like, it just blew my mind. And so I actually, when my grandmother was diagnosed, and this was actually back in 2015, she lives in Maryland at the time. And in our search for, looking for doctors, I actually stumbled across the Cancer Treatment Center. And I was trying so hard to like get her down here, but at that point it was kind of too late. She was on hospice, but all things kind of work out for you in the greater good, essentially, because there was a reason why I went through the research to even hear about you guys. So when it came time for me, you were the first call. I just kind of knew this was where I was supposed to be. And my experience with the treatment center has been absolutely amazing. I'm really, really grateful to the team and the system. It really reminds me of like this one-stop shop I know my doctors are talking to each other. It takes the stress off of me having to figure out, if they're talking to each other and making sure records are passed from here to there. All of my doctors were on one accord, and then the additional resources that are available as well. Being able to talk to a naturopath, being able to talk to someone about, my diet and just different foods that I should be ingesting and things I need to stay away from. There's just so many resources, even the sexual health, because I think that's one thing going through the treatments that we don't talk about. There are a lot of like super embarrassing, and I don't know why we think it's embarrassing, right? We're fighting cancer, but there's so many embarrassing side effects that you're dealing with that are kind of personal and we don't talk about it. That I think having these additional resources helped you to kind of navigate a little more. I know for me, oftentimes you just don't know what you don't know. And so there were so many times where I didn't like know the question to ask, and, or I might be dealing with a symptom and I'm like, is this really a symptom or is it in my head? And, just being able to have like the nursing staff there to say, like, hey, anything that feels irregular, like just tell us and don't feel silly saying it. And so I, was able to kind of just let loose a little bit and be very more friendly with my nursing staff. And they felt like big sisters, and they were just like, it's cool, like you're dealing with diarrhea. It's okay. That's a thing. And I'm like, okay, it's so embarrassing to say this, but, so I think that having, the relationship with the nurses really helped to kind of ease me through this journey. For me, I was diagnosed as stage 2 triple positive. And so what that meant is that I was pro-estrogen, estrogen, and HER2 positive. And I had to endure 6 rounds of chemo, 25 sessions of radiation, and a mastectomy. And I say all that because initially going into it, when you hear the diagnosis, and you hear stage 2 and you're like, crap, like it just sounds bad. You don't even know what that means, but anything like higher than 1, you're just like, wait, this doesn't even feel good. So that alone, on top of like when they kind of lay out what this treatment plan is, it can feel overwhelming. And it is daunting, at times to think about. And I think the best thing for me was to take it chunk by chunk. I was like, okay, at first we're just going to tackle chemo. That's all I'm going to focus on. And every day, it wasn't even just focusing on chemo in totality. It was just, let me take each round one chunk at a time and just deal with the problem as it arises, and leaning on the staff too, like not trying to figure it out all on my own. I'm definitely a recovering superwoman. I say that because, going through this, like starting out, I was like, my parents will tell you I was always the type of person that was like, I got it, I'll do it, I'll figure it out. We take on again so much as women. We're just strong like that. But in these scenarios, I think it really helps so much to be able to have that support system to rely on and not feeling scared to ask for help or embarrassed or feeling like you're a burden. I fought through all of those feelings of feeling like I was a burden to my parents. Like, they're literally my parents. They would do anything for me, but yet I felt like, oh my gosh, I'm asking too much of them to come by today and bring me something to eat. Or, like, am I being too much of a burden if I'm staying here for 2 weeks at their house? Like, they wanted me to stay forever. If they could have it their way, they probably would have. But, I had to kind of overcome those feelings of asking for help. And once I did that, it really helped my journey 10 times fold. I was really able to lean on my support system, because just like how I know I would show up for any of my family or friends that were going through this, they wanted to do the same thing for me. And once I started to realize that, I can't block their blessing of being a blessing to me. So let me just embrace it and use the help, because, we're asking a lot of times, like, to, for some higher power to help us to cope, whatever that may be. And for me, I realized that I was asking for something that was right in my face, and I just needed to leverage the resources in front of me. So I am super, super appreciative of the Cancer Treatment Center. I think that again, for me, kind of being younger and going through this and having to make decisions that are going to impact me for the next 40, 50 years of my life at this age. I couldn't imagine having been in better care and better hands. Each of the doctors understood that, hey, this is a patient that has a long time, left in her life to live, and she has, these different decisions that, she has to make that really have to be long lasting. And so they navigated me through, the proper care plans. And, even when it comes down to just reconstruction surgery and what that looks like, so all those things matter. I think that, also leveraging the counseling services as well. That was a huge thing. There's the physical aspect and dealing with the symptoms and side effects of the medicine. And there's also the emotional and the mental side of this that really can that can take a toll as well. And I think it's important for us to think through what our mental health is and our emotional health is, and making sure that we stay on top of that, just like we're staying on top of, the medicines that we're taking. It's equally as important. I remember when I first got diagnosed, there was a lady that was a survivor. And this was probably within like 2 or 3 days of me finding out. I go to this like work conference just to try and clear my mind. And the lady is there. She's a survivor. I hear her story and I start crying. Like, I'm bawling out and I couldn't even get it out. I was like, I just got diagnosed. And she like gives me this big hug. And she was just like, the biggest advice that I can give you is to keep a positive mindset. And in the moment, I'll be honest, I was like, really? That's all you got for me? It's like, give me something else. Is there a magic pill here? Like, I was looking for something deeper. But it's so funny how things come full circle, because now that is the exact same advice I would give anybody who is in my shoes or that's currently, a newly diagnosed cancer future survivor, is that positive mindset. You're gonna have dark days. You're going to have times where you're tired and you're just ready to throw in the towel. It happens, and you are not alone in those feelings. It's having those positive thoughts of like remembering why you're here, remembering your why, remembering what you're here to, who loves you, the people that support you and that want you here, and holding on to that to keep your passions and keep you fighting. I had to find my happiness again. And, for me, this journey led me into a year that I can honestly say was one of my happiest years. Despite everything that I was going through, I made a pledge to myself that every day that I was able to still be here, I was going to make it count. And that meant that every day I decided to wake up and do something for myself. So I'm a to-do list type of person. And, I'm usually always writing a to-do list of everything else from, my job, or for, like somebody else, like family and friends and things I need to do, but I never prioritize myself. And so this journey has taught me to find my happiness and do everything daily, something small, something big, whatever the case may be that I'm feeling that brings me happiness. So sometimes it's watching the sunset in my balcony in Atlanta. Other times it's going to a movie, or, going to a play, like whatever my spirit is feeling, that's what I do and that's what I go for. So I encourage everybody to just take those moments to find your own peace, your own happiness and joy, and that journey will guide you back to your health and your happiness, and you'll be healthy again. There is another side to this.